In Iran, the currency, the Rial, has fallen to record lows against the dollar, sparking a wave of protests in the capital Tehran and other cities. Iran's economy is struggling with inflation and Western sanctions linked to its nuclear program, which is dragging down growth. The government says it's taking measures to help ease the economic pain to appease the protesters. But the Iranian leadership accuses foreign powers like Israel and the US of driving the unrest and has long warned Western nations aim to topple it. Dohed Asadi has been following the protest, and he reports from Tehran.
Protests have broken out in Iran after some shopkeepers in Tehran's Grand Bazaar shut down their businesses almost 2 weeks ago, angered by the country's worsening economic situation. The bazaar, long seen as the bellwethers of public sentiment, turned into flashpoint for frustration. What began in the capital quickly spread to other cities, sparking scattered rallies. In some cases, the unrest flared into violence, leaving fatalities, injuries, and arrests in its wake. While protests continue sporadically, daily life for many Iranians remains under growing strain.
We have had to give up even simple pleasures like going out to restaurants because of rising costs. It's become difficult to afford basic items like dairy products, meat and poultry. Being able to live comfortably really matters for people.
The market is completely stagnant. Many businesses just can't keep up with rising costs, income and expenses. As they say, no longer add up. Prices climb every day. The government needs to come up with a solution.
People must be free to voice their demands and be heard rather than silenced with force. At the same time, protesters must avoid damaging public properties.
Years of international sanctions, compounded by domestic mismanagement, have left Iran's economy in deep distress. The currency, the Rial, has long been in decline, recently hitting new record lows. The economic squeeze has chipped away at public confidence and fueled discontent, with working and lower middle classes struggling to cover daily essentials. What has pushed many into rallies is not restlessness alone, but the weight of empty pockets, privation, unpaid bills, and the quiet erosion of dignity brought on by scarcity. Public dissatisfaction exists whether or not people take to the streets. Many here are watching to see how the government will respond, not just to the protests, but to the economic hardships they face in their daily lives. Dohed Asadi, Al Jazeera, counting the cost. Tehran.
Well, here's a snapshot of the state of Iran's economy. The local currency has plummeted by more than 70% in a year to 1.4 million rials to the US dollar. The loss in purchasing power has led to rocketing inflation of about 50%, and that's the official number. While the price of basic food and medical items, well, they've risen by as much as 70%. Iran is rich in resources with the world's 4th largest oil reserves, but the country faces tighter sanctions, and that's rattled markets and, of course, limited its access to foreign currency. Well, let's look into all of this further with our guest from Düsseldorf in Germany, where we're joined by Mohammed Fazanegan, and he's a professor and chair of economics of the Middle East Research Group in Marburg University. Thank you so much for joining us, Mohammed. Give us a sense of what is going wrong in Iran, because even the supreme leader has said that, okay, he's implied that sanctions, of course, are damaging, but he does say that a lot of the blame lies squarely on their shoulders.
Well, the main reasons for the current economic situation, of course, is external pressure under the sanctions. The sanctions have significantly damaged the welfare of Iranians. The currency that we see at the moment in the crisis has this reason, the supply problem. The hard currencies are limited. The main reason for that is the amounts of oil which is exported by Iran to its main client, which is China, is hard to return back these petrodollars. So we are facing barter transactions. So this supply is limited, mainly because of the sanctions and, of course, the domestic factors, over-regulation, institutional factors which are forcing exporters to bring back their earned hard currency at the lower rates. So they are not doing that. They are delaying returning back their earned hard currencies. So that also creates another supply limitations. This is the situation. The demand for hard currency exceeds the supply, and we are observing higher prices for US dollar in the market. So with the sanctions, we are observing this situation. Beyond of that, of course, the domestic corruption adding to the problem.
I mean, I think the president of the country has also said that they have limited options here. They are limited. What can they do?
Well, as you might have heard in the news in Iran, one very important reform that they have just initiated is to remove these subsidized hard currency US dollar for basic goods. In the past, with medicine, oil, eggs, red meat, these essential goods was receiving much cheaper hard currencies, US dollar for importers. Due to this limited availability of these US dollars, so the state has decided to remove these subsidized US dollar. So that means that the prices of these essential goods will increase. In return, these amounts have been given to the household, Iranian household. So 1 million tumans per day per month, which is around, at the current market rate, is around $7 US per month. 22 cents per day per person. This is supposed to compensate the higher import prices of essential goods. So the reform was important because it was the source of rent-seeking. Specific importers, politically connected importers, were receiving this subsidized hard currency, which was limited due to sanctions, and was importing these goods and was selling in the market, not necessarily at the prices that they were supposed to sell, but at the higher prices. So it was not helping the inflation, control of inflation. So the state has decided to remove these rents and give the money to the people. But the question is, how much this removal of subsidized US dollar will add to the domestic inflation in the forthcoming weeks and months, and whether this compensation would be enough. So the option on the hand of Iranian government are very limited. So without lifting the sanctions and without these pressures from abroad, any solution at the current time would not result to the control of situation.
Very quickly, is there a way out without the lifting of sanctions? Very quickly.
Well, yes, the temporary solutions in order to control these protests, at least for a year or something like that, is to revise the tax plan for the next budget of Iran, which is starting in March 2026. So the Iranian state has announced to cover 50% of the budget by taxes. This is the first time in the modern budgeting of Iran that so much burden would be imposed on the businesses. So this is generally a good move for relying on the taxation of the business, but the timing of these plans are not optimal. So when the country is under economic recessions, you cannot significantly increase the tax burden. It just add to the informal economy, and it would even frustrate more the bazaars. So today protests are basically economically driven. The middle class, which has been significantly weakened in Iran, are joining the low-income groups of the population. And this coalition between previously middle class of Iran and the current low-income groups have been added to the problem of these protests.
Mohammed, thank you so much. Mohammed Fazanegan, Professor and Chair of Economics of the Middle East Research Group at Marburg University. Thank you very much.